Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to another edition of E-Heroes. This is episode 221, and this one is going to be great because I'm actually bringing on a modern day Jedi. Yeah,
Hello
and
there.
and so I want to introduce everyone to J.H. Tepley. Um, we're going to learn how the Force actually works. So, welcome, J.H., and thanks for being here. I mean, you're from London, I'm from Pennsylvania. And I was, I don't know how I found you, but I was stumbling across the interwebs, and there you were holding a lightsaber, and I thought, huh, that's interesting. So let me learn more. And then as I was trying to learn more about you, you're over in the galaxy chuckling away because of my sense of humor. So it was kind of ironic.
Oh yeah. Well, as you can see, I'm in Coruscant right now. The background. So yeah, I'm an author, international speaker, and the spiritual mentor for male entrepreneurs. The reason why you occasionally see me with a lightsaber is because I run a meditation and lightsaber choreography training in London for charity purposes. And so my work was featured in the Guardian, BBC One, and other media outlets across the country because I want to use this. It's still a martial art, but it's so much fun. Use that to introduce an element of mindfulness, balance, and fun in people's lives.
I've interviewed others that have incorporated jujitsu and karate and some of the other martial arts into what they do in their daily lives, but none of them have ever brought on a lightsaber.
This is because of my background. So I used to do historical fencing, a fiore from the 15th century.
Wow.
Um, I don't know if you know what a longsword is.
Hmm.
Basically, it's a very long sword, and I prefer them more than short swords because a long sword you can use as your shield as well at the same time. So it's better, and I just love them. So I used to do that, and because of that, the transition was pretty easy. I didn't treat it as a martial art per se. I was more into the physical and mindful aspect of it. If we're talking about martial arts, I would say my favorite is Krav Maga.
Mm. But with the long sword, you have to also, I think, condition your body to have a different type of balance because you have this
Exactly.
long extension that you're also, it is a tool for fighting, but without
Absolutely.
without that extra, compensation for the balance, you're always going to be off center.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, I find some of these things fascinating because you take some of those lessons that you learn teaching longsword back into the entrepreneurial element,
Very
and
much
and
so.
and you have to learn to be more mindful, more balanced in what you do. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs who jump into it and go, well, I can do this. And I kind of was one of them, 27 years ago. I thought I could just do it better than what I was doing working for someone else. And it's not right. And it took me a couple of years to figure out that I didn't know how to run a business. So it took me, years to master how to do it the right way. And so then I started teaching others through books and through consulting and coaching. I've never used a lightsaber or a broadsword, so you're way ahead of us.
Well, I'm from the future,
You're from
but you're
the
welcome to join.
but let's talk about the future because you've written a lot of books as well. You know,
That's right.
and one of them that comes to mind is the light
Lightwish
light watch. Yeah.
Chronicles. That's right. I have it with me because it's my favorite book. I have several books. It's either eight or nine. But this one is the book to go to if you would like to discover what I do and learn more about my work. Technically, it's a epic space saga. I'm just looking for a map for you. So it's got a map as any. respectful book should have. I mean, an adventure book. So
Yeah,
it's
I
an
don't have maps in my books. I'm sorry. You got either you're sarcastic or you're not. There's no map.
Do you actually write epic space sagas though?
No,
Oh,
no.
there we
But
go.
however, a couple of the stories that I've used fighting scammers when they call me is I use a lot of Star Wars, Star Trek, and sci-fi references that gets lost in translation because people when they call and try to scam you out of something, they just stick to a script. So I guess I should have some type of map reference in.
Yeah, well, you can always try something new.
That's right.
And yeah, I love throwing people off their scripts myself. So with the book, technically it's an epic space saga, and it has all the elements of a fantasy story. As I said, it has a mob, it has time travel and dragons and all of that. And it starts in Tokyo, where I
Wow.
used to live when I was younger. I speak fluent Japanese. And so what this book does for you, it facilitates an alchemy of the mind. So as you read it, you can get to learn together with the characters all these things that they're going through. And ultimately, this book is about helping you discover who you are as a person on a deeper level and aligning with your purpose. So some people compare it to The Alchemist because of that.
You know,
So I
I,
would
I
sincerely recommend. It's on Amazon.
I like that phrase that you mentioned, aligning with your purpose. A lot of us don't know what that really means. They don't, and I guess for me it took a long time.
Mm,
For me, I'm very sarcastic. I need to be. I can't say I don't want to be the center of attention because I'm kind of this guy that shies away from the crowds. But if I'm in a crowd, I will analyze people and then bring out the most sarcastic answers and have everybody laughing, and that's great. But it took me a long time to understand that I'm sarcastic first and a marketer second, and so I had to use that superpower first and foremost. And so I've written a lot of great books, but it wasn't until I captured it all into the Rob versus books, and people would read along and laugh and have fun, and then at the very end of each story there'd be a little life lesson or business lesson, and it was just a short blurb, but people got to understand who I was. They got to laugh. They got to
mm,
and it was for me that was the transition from being this coach, consultant, marketer to this funny guy that they could know, like, trust, and feel safe with.
yeah.
So it's oh my god, it got real dark there. So those on they're listening to this in audio. The background of Jay's environment got so pitch dark I could barely see. So to me that was funny.
Well, you see, there is the light side of the force and the dark side of the force. And sometimes you get to experience both.
There you go. And sometimes you are both. I mean, it just I some days I just want to throat punch people. And I know that you can't really say that on Facebook anymore. I tried. Facebook banned me for 24 hours. Um,
Oh,
but as an entrepreneur, sometimes you do want to fire people. You do want to get them out of your life because they don't align anymore with your values, your core.
that's true. That's true. I actually spoke about it recently that whatever you do, one thing you want to make sure that your team, your partners, people you work with, people you surround yourself with, people who share your values. And they may be different people, they may have different interests and other things going on for them. But if they don't share your values, then they can bring you down as a person and they can bring your business down or even destroy it in the
Hmm.
process.
Now you mentioned that you lived in Tokyo and you speak fluent Japanese, but
That's right.
I think on your one of your profiles or one of your websites it says that you're also a linguist. And how do you use that in developing relationships with other people or cultures?
Well, you say linguistics is a very interesting discipline because the use of language has a lot to do with the use of the mind.
Mm,
And so it teaches you a lot about how people's minds work and how we react to being surrounded or actually using a different language. So some people even say that the more languages you speak, the more angles you have to look at the world from, and the wider your perception of reality becomes. And I agree with that. So I always find it fascinating to switch to a different language, say Japanese, and explore the world from that perspective, because it actually changes the way you think and the way you perceive reality, the way you feel, the way you act. So it's a very interesting phenomenon. There was a research that showed that people would actually even change their moral stance if they spoke a different language.
mm,
So the language that we use actually shapes our reality, the way we think. And you probably know this as an entrepreneur and as a podcast host, how the stories that we tell ourselves literally determine the course of our lives.
mhm,
Right. And so, for example, in what I do in my work, I help people create a very different story from the one they're living right now. So, the story of their higher unfoldment, their higher power, and their ultimate actually being as a person, as a man. And using the right language is really important there.
I've done over 200 some episodes. I've also been on a lot of other people's podcasts, and every time I interact with somebody, their words seep into my brain, my subconscious, and sometimes I find myself doing something that's totally opposite of who I am, and I'm like, where'd that come from? But
It's called mental induction.
yeah, it happens, and so every time, and I would encourage everyone, every time you get on a podcast, every time you listen to a podcast, listen to the words that people are saying, um, and even the words that you're sharing with others. People are going to gravitate towards you because and it may not happen right away. Sometimes I have customers, not customers. Sometimes I have people contacting me 2 years after an episode aired, and they say, "Rob, what you said was brilliant." And I'm thinking, "Okay, what did I say?" And they have to tell me because I don't remember. It's just that's how the brain works.
Yeah, words have power, a lot of power.
Yeah, and you don't always know when that power is going to kick in, but it's that's the great thing about the internet and podcasts and even the written word has power.
Of course, of
Yeah.
course. This is how some books actually made history, and
Mhm.
they changed the course of um, human thought and how many people live their lives. Like, for example, think of the holy books. That's an easy example of how one book can create so much change in the way so many people live their lives.
Mhm.
And even on a smaller scale, I can tell that people who read my books, they reached out to me saying that it changed a lot of things for them for the better, and it helped them understand themselves on a whole new level because of what they've learned.
Mhm.
So that is that is one of the advantages of the written word, because it will still be there long after we are gone. So I could still help someone 100, maybe 200 years from now if they come across my books.
And that's the wonderful thing about what we do as entrepreneurs. It's not always about the immediate gratification. It's about what we're leaving as a legacy. And
Exactly.
so all the books that I write, all the books that Jay writes, every book that you see out there is a gift to future generations to look back and say, "Wow, this is what they did. This is how they acted. This is how sarcastic he was." You know, and and
Yeah,
and and, and so that's our gift to the future.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, we are all those kids who have passed the marshmallow test.
That's great. That's awesome. So, what made you get into all this? I mean, because I know my evolution as an entrepreneur has taken on various forms over the years. I mean, I owned a cleaning business, and then I became, a writer, and then a consultant, and then I started, you know, now I have this. I can't say it's an empire because it's not there yet, but I think every entrepreneur needs to have their own evolution to go higher.
Absolutely.
And every time I look at what you're doing, that evolution is just far exceeding, most people's expectations.
I've been around for quite some time.
Mm.
Well, some people do call me the ancient one.
Yeah.
I've been teaching for over 20 years now
Wow.
and around the globe in different countries. So I had some time to think about things, to make mistakes, and to learn from them. And the reason why I specifically focused on what I'm doing right now is because I've realized there was a burning need for someone to offer what I see as a healthier alternative in self development. Because there are many things in self development, especially for men, that I morally deeply disagree with.
Mm.
And I don't think they're right. And then you know what they say that when you're sitting around and wondering why wouldn't someone do something about it, then you suddenly realize that you are someone.
Mhm.
And so, because of my research and my work, I see what things work for the mind and what doesn't. And when I saw lots of guys getting sucked into this, well, I don't want to say any words that Facebook would disapprove of, but essentially it's a whole pile of BS. And
Mm.
I don't want to, by the way, it's not a criticism, and I'm not obviously trying to bring down anyone's beliefs. And I do hope that many of those people who teach this stuff really their heart is in the right place. Maybe they're just misguided. But essentially, the way self development for men is presented right now is very feminine
Mhm.
and very emasculating at its core. And it brings guys down and it makes them feel less than what they could be. And it brings about a lot of depression and a lot of other issues, such as anxiety and feeling not good enough. Because what happens is the example I often give, and it's super easy to imagine. Imagine a circle with a blue dot in the middle and an orange dot somewhere within that circle. And so the blue dot is your ultimate unfoldment as a human being, your ultimate potential, your ultimate personal power, your ultimate state of flow that you can achieve in this lifetime and beyond. And then the orange dot is wherever you are right now in your current life. And the thing is that they want to get together. So these 2 points want to coincide. But the further away the orange dot where you are right now is from the blue dot, the more you will experience inner pain, emptiness, depression, and negative feelings like anxiety, like feeling of not being good enough, like feeling that nothing makes sense. Because this is your mind telling you that you're doing something wrong, that you are not where you should be in your life. Because we all have a blueprint. This is what most people don't realize. Like, look at trees, for example, or any plants or any animals around you. And so let's use an acorn as an example. So when you look at it, you know that it's not meant to be an acorn forever. It's an acorn now, but really its purpose is to become an oak tree one day. And
Mhm.
somehow, mysteriously, the acorn seems to know that as well. Because I have not seen a single acorn that would suddenly become a birch tree or a palm tree instead by mistake, or because it was envious of other palm trees and it thought it could do the same. No, it has this blueprint that innate wisdom encoded in it that it follows. And this is because it doesn't have BS.
Mm-hmm.
Because humans tend to accumulate a lot of BS as they go through life. They are affected by the bling, spiritual bling, the shiny object syndrome. And so instead of listening to that inner blueprint that we also have, like we are no worse than all other creatures around us. So we are not left out. Nature doesn't make exclusions like that. We also have this blueprint that shows us the path to our ultimate natural and full unfoldment and happiness and joy and flow. But the problem with human beings is that we don't tend to listen to that because many of us just don't know how.
Mm-hmm.
And so people, especially in self-development, they are hoping that by enrolling in some course, listening to some seminar, that is going to somehow take them to that blueprint, not realizing that they have it within themselves. And so what they actually need to learn is how to access that rather than chasing external things. So this is one of the things that my work is focused on.
Yeah, it's you know, and anybody who's followed me knows that I'm not a fan of the shiny objects. In fact, I tell a lot of my clients, you know, SOS is horrible. For yeah, it may make you feel good. It may make you feel, you know, that you're going somewhere. But shiny object syndrome can cost you more money, can further your depression, can make you
Mm,
feel so much more anxiety. Um,
very true.
and but you know, we as humans, I think, and I'm not going to say men or women, but I think those that feel that they need something more in life are more susceptible to shiny object syndrome. And but those that are content, and it's like for me, it's like, hey, your Jedi mind trick doesn't work on me because I can see through that BS. I don't want that shiny object because it's going to cost me more time and more money and more aggravation.
Of
And
course.
and yet people fall for it every single day. And
Yes, they do. They
yeah,
do. It happens when you don't know your path. You
right.
don't know what you stand for as a person. You don't have your why. So, you know what they say that Marxists, for example, prey on people who don't have a business strategy. And it's like a simple thing, right? So you
Right.
don't have a business strategy, they're trying to sell you all sorts of things. But for your spiritual development, it's very similar, where if you don't have some ground that you stand on, if you don't say, okay, this is what I do, this is who I am as a person, not in a limiting way, but in a way that anchors you to something bigger than you,
Mhm.
but something that you represent through your life and through what you do. And that makes you unshakable, because once you have a very clear idea of who you are and what you stand for, you suddenly see with full clarity what doesn't belong there. So you become automatically immune, like yourself, to the shiny object syndrome, because you know which things serve you on your path and which things don't. So it becomes super simple and super easy. But taking this first step, creating this story of the new superhero you, of the version of you that lives your purpose, and stepping into that story and being that, that takes work.
Right. And you know, having some type of creed, and I know that creed is very much part of what you do and what you deliver
Yes,
and how you help people. Can you expand on that a little?
absolutely. And love this question, by the way. So, through my research over the years, and not just my own, but many other philosophers and sages that lived before us, I've realized that as human beings, we have an interesting quirk that no matter what we do, we can either use to our advantage, or it's going to work against us. And that quirk is that we have to be part of something greater than ourselves. This is how we function best. So if you think of ultimate efficiency and ultimate flow, you know how there is a lot of talk about it, especially amongst the biohackers tribe,
Mhm.
or how to hack your performance, how to hack your flow. The answer is actually very straightforward. You have to find that greater power and align yourself with it. And it doesn't actually matter that much what that power is or what you refer to it as long as you have a true deep connection to something that is greater than you in a very real, visceral way. And because we are designed to be connected to that power at all times, you can call it the force, you can call it God, you can call it the light. I call it light because if you develop your superhuman vision and you start learning to see energies, which actually most of us can do, so it's not as mysterious as people think, you will get to see that energy as actual light
Mhm.
spilled all around you. And it's everywhere in all things and it's in you. So if you have a system like Ariya Creed, for example, where you can plug into that huge source of energy, that quantum soup that you exist in, then you become unshakable. And then you step into the feeling of flow and ultimate performance. This is because the feeling of flow is not a thing in itself. And most people don't know about this. So the feeling of flow is a side effect of you being at your best as a human being. And to be at your best as a human being, you have to connect to that something greater than you. And this is why over the course of human history, many people were attracted to things like religion. This is not because they thought, oh, let's just be fanatics or zealots. This is because they saw it as an opportunity to learn how to connect. But I think right now, although this way may still be valid for some people, there is a better way.
Mhm.
There is a way that suits the modern mind in this current reality that we live in. And this is why I teach my students how to do it without becoming a sage or a Buddhist monk or some religious adept, because it's not necessary. But what is necessary is that deep connection, because it's incredible just how much your life transforms. It's difficult to describe in words, even, but it works as that alchemy agent for your mind and for your body. So if you meditate, if you are into self development, ultimately what your soul, your inner self, is calling you to do is to re-establish your connection with that force. And the, a funny way of seeing that, but a very true way, is imagine us being like mobile phones. And you see, a mobile phone is a great device and it can do so many things for you. But the problem with it that the charge only lasts for a few hours. So you have to charge it every now and then, probably overnight. Like when you charge yourself, you charge your phone, right? And especially if you are upgrading your OS, your phone asks you to plug it in.
Mhm.
And so, funnily enough, it's very true for us as human beings. So, if you want to upgrade your mind, your mindset, your body, you actually need to be plugged in because your own internal battery is not big enough to sustain you throughout this process. So, if you get yourself plugged into the force, the light, the quantum soup, and you rely on that power and not just solely on your own resources, this is how you make real spiritual progress and become that greater version of yourself who can leave an epic legacy and really lift other people.
And stop thinking about the word hack. To me, I never liked the word hack. It was always about, every time I heard about it, I was like, oh, you're going to offer me this silver bullet or this magic bean. I don't want a short term thing. I want this long term life lesson that's going to excel me somewhere, just not hacking something. Ugh, don't get me
Exactly,
started. It's just
exactly. Yeah, this is what they call themselves, though.
everybody wants a shortcut, and you know, if everybody took a shortcut, this world wouldn't work the way it's supposed to.
Absolutely. But you know what happens? I think it's not entirely their fault. It's just the way many people get conditioned. And just as you spoke before, sometimes you talk to someone or listen to someone talk, and then you realize that suddenly you are thinking and feeling in a way that is not normal for you. But for someone who is a lot younger, imagine them listening to some, let's say, guru who then plant certain ideas in their minds. And so many of those guys, they suffer from a man-child syndrome where their bodies grow up, but their minds don't. And it's not because they've chosen it to be so, or it was their conscious decision, but simply because they couldn't find a way to make it happen. Because in ancient societies, for example, there were rites of passage where a boy could go through them, and at the end of it, he knew that now he's a man, he has to behave in a different way, his worldview would have to be different. He now acquired certain skills to sustain himself in that new reality. But right now, because that has been taken away from our society, so many of those boys, as they grow up or even get older, they never have the opportunity to fully step into their personal power as men. And having this quick fix, quick get rich mentality is part of being a child, because this is what children want. They want things to happen at once, straight away, instantly, with no effort. But as we grow up, we realize that nothing that is worth having would be easy to get by,
Right.
but that takes certain maturity. So this is why, for example, part of what I do help those guys to cross that threshold
Hmm.
from where they are and trapped in that forever Peter Pan kind of state to becoming powerful human beings. And I think in our society right now, it's very important.
I think most entrepreneurs, when they start off, they have delusions of grandeur that they think they're going to be rich and famous within a few months of starting their business, and that's not
Mhm.
always the case. And typically, it takes a lifetime. I've been at it for 28 years, and so it's not something that's going to be delivered to you on a silver platter. You have to work for it. You have to cultivate it. You have to, garden it, and it's going to take a mindset that most people don't have, don't want, or they like we said before, they want to biohack their brain so that they think that they're going to be millionaires right away. It doesn't work that way,
Mm.
and
Absolutely.
just like you've written all these books, I've written all these books. Everything takes time, and those things that are worth doing well, are not worth hacking. They're worth taking the time to learn it properly, to adjust your brain, to think differently, and sometimes when you do that, you attract a better type of clientele. You attract people that want to be with you, that want to give you more money, that want to refer you to other people. When you take steps, when you skip steps and just want to hack stuff, you get the cheapest clients with the worst attitude that don't want to pay you anything. And so, when you take this journey of entrepreneurship, you have to be able to understand the force that's behind all this, and you're doing an awesome job teaching it.
Thank you. And I absolutely agree with what you just said. There is a saying that entrepreneurship is self development in disguise. And it's very true because I've seen guys who made, say, 1 million in a year, 2 years, but that doesn't bring true change and satisfaction. So, what many people who start up don't realize, because they're being sold that flashy dream of get quick rich. idea. And I've seen ads, even on my Facebook feed, that nearly shame you for not following that path. They almost imply that if you haven't made a million in your second year of being in business, there must be something wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what I would like to add to what you said is that becoming rich quick, although it's not impossible per se, it doesn't change anything for you in the grand scheme of things. It still makes you and leaves you feel empty and unfulfilled. And there are so many guys I see being very depressed and saying, I have these cars, I have these villas, but no, it doesn't mean anything because the inner pain is just too much for me to enjoy this stuff now.
Yeah.
And so the true calling, I believe that for a true entrepreneur, a genuine one who wants to change the world by example and leave a legacy and really serve people greatly, not just make a quick buck, but create something of value. Creating something of value takes time. And it also takes you leaving the old you behind and becoming the version of you that can make it happen. And this is what it's really all about.
So how do people find you? Where do they go?
They can find me on almost all social media out there. New Era Superhero. So if you put hashtag in Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, I think what else is out there? Look around New Era Superhero, and you will find me. My website is likewise New Era Superhero. You can also find me on Amazon and find all of my books, both in Kindle and printed versions. And so you can start your journey like that. And also, I have a dedicated student channel on Telegram, which is completely free. And I share the most exciting bits of different interviews, just like this one, and many more, and videos that I don't share anywhere else. So if you are on Telegram, do sign up. We also talk about not just self development, but maturity, business, and crypto.
Yeah, I'm not mature, so I can't join. And one last
Keep it on your
question.
list. Keep it on your list.
One last question, and I know everybody's dying to know this one. As a Jedi, what color is your lightsaber?
Cyan,
Sun,
cyan,
cyan,
blue. It's a
blue,
shade of blue
blue. Yeah,
because I prefer aggressive negotiations.
not a purple one, huh? Like Mace Windu.
Definitely not. I'm on the light side of the force, but I think negotiations with the lightsaber are a lot more persuasive.
And you want to show it off, or yes,
I
no?
can do it.
Wow, most that is one bright lightsaber.
I can't really swing it here, but
Yeah, might shatter the windows. That is impressive.
so there you go. I am the Jedi you've been looking for.
And with that, I want everybody to go to newerasuperhero.com. I'll put the link below in the video. If you're watching it, or if you're listening to it on audio, you're just going to have to type it in the browser and find J.H. Tepley, just the
Thank you very much.
awesomest e-hero ever with a lightsaber. Anyway, adios, everyone. We'll see you on the next episode.